Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's the Wrestling Classic. Justin here, back for the TWC Show, and do not fret, do not worry, I'm not alone this week. You don't have to listen to me ramble for 45 minutes like I made you guys listen to me ramble last week. I will say, I appreciate those of you that reached out to me that said, you know what, I really enjoyed this solo episode. We always value your opinion and stuff, so it was cool to hear you just go on and on and on. But I don't enjoy them because it feels weird talking to myself in a room. I felt like I was drunk when I was sober. That being said, guys, I'm here this week with none other than Women's Wrestling Talks. Both of them are from Women's Wrestling Talk. We got Nicki Bushi returning and Santana. How are you guys doing today?
I'm great.
We're good.
That was a nice introduction. However, let's try this again. So, Women's Wrestling Talk, your editor-in-chief here and host, and of course, I consider her to be the senior writer and host as well as Women's Wrestling Talk. So, we here.
The one and only Nicki Bushi. Always,
the Salt Shakers are in the building. We're back. Justin kind of cut us off last week, but it's okay. He wanted to go solo.
I just did a very last minute. I did a very last minute. Okay, nobody wanted to come on the show, even though it was my birthday week. Even though it was my birthday week, nobody wanted to help me out, and I did it all by myself. Okay. Shout out to your Carmella shirt. There's only 3 of those available in the entire world.
In the world.
And I have one, you have one, and one I hope to give to Carmella one day soon. That being said, before we go there, like you guys have been pumping out articles left, right, and center. Why don't you guys let people know some of the articles you guys just dropped on Women's Wrestling Talk? There's a whole handful of them.
Well, we dropped. We're actually doing a panel tomorrow for the top 5 My Moments, Bianca Belair. I'm working on some stuff. Santana's really been pushing everything out, making everything look so well, and just we've really been trying to dig into women's wrestling more. Santana really is doing a great job with us, getting us in the news and getting us in the know. So
it's just more so like what Nicki said, more so just getting more news about women out instead of just doing like top 5s. They're great, they're cool, don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of things going on in the world that surrounds women than just top 5s. So I've just been like, whenever there's something news that comes out, I just write it. Or Nicki, she started working on her article like with Deonna Purrazzo that got retweeted by her and shared, so that was great. And even with some of the other writers, Trisha Dore shared one of the other writers' stories that she wrote on her top 5. And just a lot more. I know Nicki got a few other articles on her sleeve that she's working on. Right now, I have one that I'm working on, as well as a new writer that we brought on, who's a Liv Morgan fanatic. But we'll jump into Liv Morgan a little bit later. But however, he's working on her as well as like a top 5 for another set of Hall of Famers coming out later on this month, actually before Survivor Series.
That being said, with Survivor Series, guys, I will be writing a Survivor Series article for 1:37 p.m. where I'll talk about my top 5 favorite Survivor Series traditional matches, as well as my predictions for this upcoming Survivor Series. It's going to be a combined article. I also got another one coming out soon about my greatest favorite talkers on the mic. Guys, you can find all my articles at 1:37 p.m. There's a whole plethora of previous ones that I've written. I made a highlight on my Instagram page. You click through the highlight, you can see all my articles. The links are there as well. Guys, you can check out all my old articles. They're still relevant today. I ranked all the WrestleManias. I ranked all of Undertaker's greatest matches at WrestleMania, Bret Hart matches, Macho Man matches, Charlotte Flair matches, Sasha Banks matches, and a bunch of other opinion pieces. So, guys, make sure you go check that out. If you aren't already, make sure you subscribe to the TWC Show. If you're listening to this for the first time, hit the follow and subscribe button on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, wherever you're listening. And make sure you leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts if you can. Leave a 5-star rating and leave a review. Let us know what you think about the show. If even not about me, like if you enjoy having Nicki on the show, if you enjoy having Santana on the show, Daniel, Mika, whoever else has been on the show, Neeson, Tim Han Rivera, My bad, Tim. I gotta stop doing that. Make sure you let me know. So, like, I want to make sure that I know who you guys want on the show and whatnot. And yeah, I appreciate all the support. The viewership's been going up in the past couple of months. A lot of new listeners, a lot of people checking out the Patreon, a lot of people participating on the Instagram page. I've been asking a lot of question posts these days. The comments have been popping off. I love it when I see my comments pop off more than like 150 comments, and there's just a bunch of people debating and talking. It inspires me to write articles about those things.
You're welcome.
I asked you guys who you guys thought was one of the greatest talkers in wrestling, and that comment section popped off, and that led to me writing an article of my favorite talkers in wrestling. So the more you guys engage and participate, the better it is for me coming up with content and creative stuff. I've been trying to do these little green screen things where I'm promoting my shit with this little green screen feature on the reels and stuff like that. And you guys have been checking those out. I appreciate that. Drop more likes, drop more comments, join the conversation. It really benefits and helps. Lastly, before we move on to wrestling, thanks for all the birthday wishes, man. I appreciate all you guys that made my birthday really special. You all, a lot of comments of happy birthdays, DMs. I don't know if some of you had my phone number. It was cool. I got a bunch of happy birthdays. I really appreciate it. I don't really like my birthday too much as people around me will disagree because they're like, well, you're posting about it and you're promoting it. But that being said, I don't like my birthday. I'm glad it's over. I stopped really caring about celebrating my birthday after the age of 21. But I appreciate all the love I get of you, and I actually look forward to that. I can't even lie about that. I look forward to the love I get from the Wrestling Classic family on my birthday, and everyone showing love and celebrating my birthday. And shout out to my girl Mela. She's one of the first people that said happy birthday when I made the post on my page, which is a real one. For all you people that always like, why are you always supporting Mela? It's because she's the homie. She actually is. And I'm not going to cry. Congratulations. That's an inside joke. Some of you guys will probably understand that. But moving forward, before we get into all the rest of stuff, the one other thing I really want to touch on really quickly was I wanted to talk about Jon Moxley entering this alcohol rehab situation that he's gone into, the recovery home that he's gone to for his issues with alcohol. I think that is very admirable. I think it was a really good move on his behalf. It's really hard to notice you have a problem, like just generally, like that first, just to know you have a problem. One of my favorite quotes from Mad Men, which I kind of lived by ever since I heard it the first time, because I've kind of been surrounded by alcoholism in my life as well, is Don Draper once said, the moment you think you have a drinking problem, you probably have a drinking problem. And I think that's true, because the moment you think you're doing something too much, it's probably your conscience trying to tell you like you do. And I think with him being where he is in his life, he's on the top of his game. He's a top star in AEW. He just had a baby. Him and Renee are moving. He just wrote a book. I think with everything going on in his life, I think even writing the book might have really helped him realize the issues he might have had. Like, listen, Moxie's a one-of-a-kind human being and superstar. Like, I've heard stories about this guy going to the library and doing cocaine. Like, he's open, he's an honest person, and and that's a thing that I always found really likable about Jon Moxley. Just who we see on TV seems like the real person a lot. There's not that much difference between the two, and for him to realize that he had a problem and take initiative up with it and go get some help. It was really admirable. It was really cool. And I can only speak for me, but I stand by Moxley and I hope he's well very soon. And we get to see him return being the badass that he is, opening a can of whoop ass and being that lunatic that we all love and remember when he was still around doing the thing. Kind of a bummer on the flip side from the wrestling side, because I was looking forward to Moxley versus Bryan Danielson at Full Gear. I thought that was one of those matches that was a little unpredictable. We'll do Full Gear predictions in a little bit, but and I'll touch on that a little bit more, because I did think when it came to Danielson and Moxley, that's a match that could have went either way, with Hangman potentially winning the AEW championship. But now they picked a solid replacement, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Did you guys have anything you want to say about Moxley before we move on to the other sad news of this week?
I will say that I do commend him for wanting to get help and wanting to do better, because you do have a lot of people who battle with, alcoholism, and sometimes they do not notice there is a problem until it's too late, until they're either drunk themselves to death or eventually hurting someone in their family or anything of that nature. And nobody wants to kind of let this be a modern day of what we already know what happened in the past, which is for people who have problems with alcoholism and so much more. So I do commend him for wanting to get help and, you know, taking a step back and allowing himself to be vulnerable to share that with everyone, because it's not something he has to do, you know, but to allow people to know that this is something that he is dealing with shows that that is a real person that you see on TV every week, or that is he is who he is and he's not ashamed of it. And I'm happy that a lot of people are supporting him instead of, you know, attacking him like sometimes people do in the media when people want to better themselves. So I wish nothing but positiveness and happiness for him, Renee, and their baby.
And to that point, like I like how you said that, you know, he wasn't ashamed of his situation. Sometimes addiction can be something a lot of people are ashamed of, but I will say, and I said this in my post, I strongly believe, like, listen, I'm a wrestling fan. I'll always be a wrestling fan. I know sometimes we fall into like knowing stuff about their personal life and wanting to know stuff about their personal life, especially when it comes to like their relationships and marriage and kids. And like, oh, like we want to congratulate because we feel like we watch them on a weekly basis, that we like, you know, we are connected to them in a different way. And that happens with all celebrities, not just wrestlers, right? But I always feel like with wrestling fans, they need to sometimes be reminded that like technically nobody really owes us an explanation for anything going on in their personal life. You don't owe them an explanation what's going on in your personal life. They don't owe you an explanation what's going on in their personal life. But I found it very like, once again, like just very like admirable that he was open to want to share this with us rather than just disappearing off of TV in a major, when he was in a major place. Like I said, he was about to fight Danielson. Like that's what we all saw was coming. Instead of just him being pulled off of TV and disappearing for God knows what reason, he wanted to share with the fans with what he was going through. And in an industry where wrestling fans have had the opportunity to see things like the rise and fall of Razor Ramon Scott Hall, or the resurrection of Jake the Snake Roberts, and what these guys went through in their career, and what the road can do to you, and what the wrestling industry can do to you. I think we're in a time where wrestling fans are a little bit more empathetic towards these sorts of situations. And we know that addiction's a problem in wrestling. We know addiction's a problem in real life. Like I said, I've dealt with it in my own family circle. So, and I know how quickly people can get into denial or get ashamed about it and don't want to admit there's a problem. And to your point, the fact that he's, attacking it sooner than later is a really big thing too, because it's a lot harder later in life, especially when it gets more of a habit, so that being said, like I just want to point out, like, there's no reason that they had to tell us, but I also like the way that Tony said that, John said that he's okay with me sharing this with you guys, and yeah, just wish him well and I hope he's back soon. There was a ton of other sad news this week as well, though. Switching gears a little bit, and that was mainly, if you guys watched THS Wrestling Show on Tuesday when I was on there with Pingle, I know you two were both there watching. Pingle at one point said something such as, I heard there's rumors there might be more releases this Friday. I don't know where he got his info from or who his sources were. And I was like, who are they going to release? Like, who's really left to release? The rosters are getting so thin. And he's like, oh, no, you'll be surprised with some of the names I've been hearing. And I'm like who? Were you guys surprised by some of the names that were released?
I'm going to say yes first. And I'm going to also say, you guys kind of said everything about Moxley, but I do want to send my condolences and prayers to Renee and her family. I'd also, to the releases, I think, and me and Santana, and we've all talked about this, Nia Jax was a big one. For our inner circle, I also think B-Fab was a surprising one. I have said things regarding Hit Row and them coming to the main roster that have been proven with this release. And so Nia Jax was probably the most shocking, I guess. And Keith Lee.
Before Santana goes, I should probably read the list of names that were released. So those that might.
Yeah, that would be probably.
If you don't know, you gotta be pretty shocked. But if you do know, you should know. But if you don't know, I'd be pretty shocked if you're a wrestler. But if you don't, I understand. You listen to the show because you want that information, especially if you're going to be listening on Dash Radio. If this is going to be the first episode that goes up there, well, yeah, we're returning to Dash Radio, guys. Look forward to that. But other than that, the names that were released, we first got. I'm gonna go down the list. This wasn't the order they were released, but this is the list I have on my page. So we had Karrion Kross and Scarlett. Karrion Kross, former NXT World Champion, was just on the main roster not really long, for like a cup of coffee, I want to say, with a gladiator gimmick, which he also stated on social media that nobody wants that stupid helmet to a fan. We had Nia Jax, which, like Nicki just said, very shocking. Former women's champion in her own right. We had Keith Lee, a former NXT World Champion. We had Mia Yim. We had Harry Smith. That's Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog's son. He literally just returned, wrestled a couple dark matches, already released. Eva Marie, who they built up for months and months with these vignettes about the evolution, and she did this one angle with Doudrop. I even had a match on SummerSlam. And for a little shocking to me, just because all the stuff she does outside of wrestling, I thought that's someone they'd want to keep because she's doing stuff in Hollywood and she's already kind of established herself in that circle, that they would want to keep her because of her relevance outside of the wrestling bubble, but not the case. B-Fab from Hit Row, and Hit Row just got called up to the main roster. They just debuted. B-Fab's gone on. I know we're going to talk about that a little bit more too in a second. They got rid of the hit roll at the beginning of the theme song, which is also a bummer. Grand Metalik and Lince Dorado, which is a Lucha house party. They're both gone, which honestly, not so shocking to me. We had Katarina Cortez of Legado del Fantasma. Guys, that's not the woman that's with them right now. That was the woman that was with them that wore the Lucha mask. She was wrestling on 205 Live as of recently. She also got released. Ember Moon, a former NXT Women's Champion. Also was on the main roster off and on for a bit, and also a former NXT Women's Tag Team Champion as well. Frankie Monet, aka Taya Valkyrie, who was literally just there not that long ago, like just got signed not that long ago, and I thought was a big deal. Her husband John Morrison still in the company as well. I thought we'll talk about Frankie in a minute because I'm with the women's wrestling talk ladies, so we'll figure that out in a second. But I have thoughts on Frankie as well. Trey Baxter, who is Cora Jade's boyfriend, I believe. His name is actually something on the independents, and they always forget it's a Christian something, but
Blake Christian.
There you go. He's already booked for GCW shows in December, so he's doing okay. Yeah. Only Jeet Rama, who was brought in when they were trying to create NXT India, which, like I have stated in the past, Triple H had this big plan to expand NXT. We're gonna have an NXT in the United States. We're gonna have NXT in the UK. We're gonna have NXT China and India and Australia. Like, there used to be plans that Triple H used to present at these licensing dinners and meetings on WrestleMania weekend, where he'd pitch how he was gonna make NXT a global brand, and they were gonna have performance centers around the world, and they're gonna be making new talents. Obviously, that's all been scrapped, as we can tell, because a lot of the talents that was signed for NXT China and NXT India is slowly being released, and one of them is Jeet Rama. We had Oni Lorcan, who is a tremendous wrestler. I'm sure did a lot at the Performance Center, was a part of a lot of big angles on NXT as of lately, including the stuff with Pat McAfee and Pete Dunne and those guys. Super talented guy who I also think will be easily booked on the independents very, very soon because a lot of people love him. Zeta Ramir, who was someone who also just recently got signed not too long ago, and Jesse Kamea. Which, one last point I want to make before I pass it on to you guys is Swerve of Hit Row lost one of his partners in B-Fab and his girlfriend in Jesse Kamea. Not a great week for Swerve. Moving forward, how do you guys feel about these releases with any other names that you want to touch on?
I just want to say one thing before Santana takes over. What is Eva Marie's relevance to the WWE that you mentioned? And who did she face at SummerSlam?
Alexa Bliss.
I didn't ask you that.
Alexa Bliss.
Right.
Did I say Doudrop?
I'm just asking. And the reason I'm asking is because it wasn't memorable.
I mean, it was memorable because it was funny. I would watch her back because she doesn't know how to wrestle. And anyway, I think that was part of her gimmick.
Ember Moon, I will say that.
And time, one last thing before you come in. And she's filming a movie as we speak. This lady is relevant outside of the wrestling bubble.
But you said it pertained to the WWE.
It's good to keep someone.
She's not that big. She's big.
Especially if you're moving away from being a wrestling company, because the WWE doesn't want to be a wrestling company. They think they're this like Disney professional. We're Marvel. We're like the MCU. Like, you want to keep people that are relevant outside of wrestling. If you don't, like, to me, AEW is a wrestling company. WWE is Disney. It can be whatever it wants to be. Santana.
I just don't think that she doesn't like her release isn't as heartfelt as
Ember Moon. I don't remember the last thing Ember Moon did.
I'm not saying Ember Moon. I was gonna say like of a Nia Jax.
Nia Jax is the big one too, though. I'm not saying Nia Jax is bigger than Eva for sure in a wrestling spectrum, 110%. Go on, Santana. The floor is yours.
For me, I would say that Nia Jax was extremely shocking. Like I remember watching as Sean was, announcing who was released and whatnot, and literally like, they released Nia Jax. Are you kidding me? Type vibe, and I'm just like, I was like, I didn't. And honestly, the way that they released Nia really made me look at them differently because of her taking a mental break and wanting to get an extension on her mental break when she was supposed to come back, I think November the 15th. And she asked for an extension, then she didn't hear from nobody, and then boom, she wakes up the next day and she's released. Like that is the worst thing that I believe that's something they could ever do, is kind of let you know that they didn't value Nia the way that she probably thought that they did. And it sucks because Nia has been there for 7 years. She's been in so many different feuds. I understand. I know everybody else talk about how, she's hurtful in the ring. She's not the only person that was hurtful in the ring. Okay, Ronda Rousey was hurting people in the ring. Sasha Banks ended Paige's career literally. So what are we talking about here? So it's like there are so many other people who have been hurtful in the ring, but at least Nia Jax comes up to work. She does what she needs to do when she needs to do it. Point blank, period. So I just hate the fact that it just seems like even though she may be attached to a big family, that don't mean nothing anymore. That saying is irrelevant right now. It doesn't matter. Keith Lee for me.
Marks love to say that, nobody's in touch Nia because she's The Rock's cousin. That's
and
what
Santana's
is referring to for those aren't the biggest wrestling fans. That's not a thing you can say anymore.
Not anymore. Keith Lee, I was like very shocked to see that he was released out there after him coming up to the main roster. And then you go back and watch his WWE24 and you see how Vince was just so adamant about him. And now it's like a year later and he's released. And the whole Bearcat thing wasn't even his idea. It was just something that they just decided that they want to put on him and whatnot. And Keith Lee, he is so talented. The first ever wrestler to hold both the NXT title and the North American Championship. The first one. Nobody else has done that but him. His promos are good. His ring ability is amazing. He has so much talent. And I know that Keith Lee can go somewhere else and be a star outside of WWE. Mia Yim. Mia Yim had a pretty good run in NXT. Like she was the HBIC. She was that. She had her run in NXT and it was really good. Her coming up to the main roster and be with Retribution did not do anything. She only had one match and after that you didn't see her anymore. We thought maybe she was gonna go back down to NXT or something, but after that it was just like you didn't see her anymore because she was still dealing with what Keith Lee had going on. The whole COVID thing, then him trying to battle to get his birth name, not be trademarked. It's just so much that was going on within that time for her that, she wasn't given her opportunity, but I know that she can go somewhere else. And she'll be great too. Ember Moon. Ember Moon is, I may not care too much for this woman, but she is an amazing wrestler. She can be put up against anybody and she will give a show. She's a very great seller, I tell you that. But I guess maybe her run in NXT was done. Like that was it. There was nothing else left for her to do. Her main roster run was not that great either because she didn't last that long. So I believe that she can go somewhere else and be great too. B-Fab. I had a lot to say about her on social media and I got dragged for it. And I'm going to say
that's because it started to become a thing. And this is you had a good point. I don't want to talk about that. Because it became a thing after B-Fab got released. And it happened for Nia too, but when it happens for Nia's been around longer too. I'm talking about the current releases. Like Nia's been around for a while, right? And Nia has never listen, I'm not gonna sit and be like I'm the biggest Nia fan, right? I never have been the biggest Nia fan, but being who I am, not being the hardcore like I love the in-ring wrestling guy, but the character storyline guy, I'm like there's always a place for a woman on that division like a Nia Jax. Like her theme song said, I know it's cheesy, she wasn't like the rest of them, and you could place her against anyone. And she I remember when Nia was feuding with Sasha, I was like, wow, like if they really could find their chemistry together, I used to love it when like Shawn Michaels would wrestle a Vader or a Yokozuna or someone that was bigger, or like Brett would wrestle the Undertaker, like anyone that was bigger than him, because there's a different story you can tell. Then I'm like, with Nia, you could do that with a lot of these women, because a lot of these women are smaller than Nia Jax, not in like that way, just in sizes generally. Like they're smaller than Nia, and you can tell great stories as characters and as personalities. So I can understand the kind of like, shit, like we don't have that Nia Jax monster anymore. Like, yeah, you have a Rhea and a Charlotte who are also bigger, taller, like more muscular women, but like Nia brought a different presentation. So I can understand kind of missing Nia Jax. For me personally, and this is why I kind of agree with you, I'm like, once again, I did not watch NXT as religiously as everyone else did in the last couple of years. I don't know how great Hit Row really was on NXT. I didn't really, B-Fab was literally on the main roster for like a week. And now we have all this trendingness of bring back B-Fab, and no disrespect to the human being. I'm talking about the character and the person that, the character they decide to let go. Was it worth a bring back B-Fab?
I don't think so. No. Because, and I'm going to say this, and I can care less about how anyone feels, because at the end of the day, she was doing like a bunch of little dark matches, I guess, down at NXT and whatnot, Performance Center. And then when the whole COVID thing hit, I mean, she only had like 10 matches under her belt. And I guess you can make 11 with the match that she had on TV wise for NXT. It wasn't that great. It wasn't that memorable. I already know that people are going to say, oh, it takes time to get comfortable in the ring. Yeah. Okay, cool. Great. But to that point, I still feel as if like she did not. I understand that everybody's like, oh, well, she wasn't given a chance. She wasn't given an opportunity. She had an opportunity down at NXT to figure out what she was going to do. She got with Hit Row, and I know they try to say she's the glue of Hit Row. Hit Row don't feel the same without B-Fab, all this and that. And like I said in my tweet, the only reason why y'all making all this noise is because she got released. Now, if WWE listen to y'all hashtag, bring B-Fab back, and she comes back, I want to see y'all keep making that same noise every time she come out on the screen. Because as soon as she comes back and get her job, and she continues with the same thing that she's doing right now with Hit Row barely even wrestling, y'all not going to say nothing. Y'all going to be quiet. Your lips going to be sealed. Y'all going to say nothing else. Y'all only doing this because she wasn't given an opportunity. If they didn't see no value in her. They don't see value in Hit Row. They don't. Let's just be honest.
And that's what I was gonna also say. Like, it is weird that when in NXT they were building, they were really becoming a substantial faction. And I believe that once they got moved up, it's almost like, because it does surprise me that they're still going forward with Hit Row. Well, I'm not gonna say it surprises me, but it's weird, I guess, because it's almost, in a sense, it's like, why is she not here? Like, what did y'all not see them as a unit? It's like, it's weird.
I read somewhere that she didn't. I don't know if this is true, guys. So you guys can come at me and let me know if it's true or not. That she didn't even initially want to be a part of Hit Row. I don't know if that's true. I also have heard people say that the Hit Row didn't really fit the new NXT 2.0, but who really does? And don't get me wrong, I do like certain things on NXT 2.0. Some of the stuff's going on me, like Tony D'Angelo, like Braun Breaker, like Lash Legend. Even I watched it back, that Andrew Chase guy is pretty funny too. But like, it's very not the old NXT, and I think they fit the old NXT. They don't fit this new NXT.
No,
they don't fit main roster.
No, I don't know. I disagree, because they don't fit. They were definitely fitting into that young, established look.
You might be right.
They were dominating. Like, they were bringing in the same thing that the new NXT Women's Champion was bringing in.
And then
something that was fresh, something that was new, something that was the only difference is that we saw more of character. And I don't know if they just fell in love with and this is what typically happens. I feel like they fall in love with the connotation of it. Like, they fall in love with, oh, this is a group that, I don't know. It just,
the last point I was going to make was also, we've seen on NXT, so I'm not like exclude NXT from this example, because NXT has always been a little bit different, but we haven't usually ever really seen a long-term relationship with a women's wrestler in a male stable on the main roster. And I think I don't think they know how to do that. Does that make sense? I'm trying to think back in the history. Like, I can't think in the WWE. I've seen it in WCW, I've seen it in other places, but in the WWE on the main roster, I've never really seen a women's wrestler in a male, like, out like the
Besides China. I mean, China.
well, China, but that was like
China.
unless they're in a legitimate relationship, because China and
Yeah.
Triple H were kind of relationship, Stephanie and Triple H were in a relationship. Lita and Matt Hardy were in a relationship. I think when it's not,
I mean, what
a
about
couple,
Trish and Tess and Albert? You know what I'm saying?
she was the manager though.
Yeah, but she
Supposed to be, like,
started
in the
wrestling
faction.
too, though.
No, she
You know
did.
what I'm saying?
But once she started wrestling, they separated her from them.
Yeah. And then even, but
So
I mean, if we cancel out the whole relationship thing and we look at them being in a faction, we look at Team Extreme, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's
I
probably the
mean,
only one. That's probably
yeah.
that's like the most legitimate one I could think of. But like, I don't think it's something they're comfortable with, and I don't think they know how to book a woman in a male stable. Look at all the stable. Like, we could have had a woman in the Hurt Business. We could have had a woman with the New Day at some point. We've seen women hang out with the New Day, but never really stay with them.
I think the only one I say right now is kind of working. Well, I guess sort of working is what is it? Legado.
But that's in NXT. And I think they got it in NXT. They just don't know how to. They've never known how to do it on the main roster outside of.
But then with that point, why would you take Hit Row out of NXT?
They should have left them in.
For sure.
They weren't ready. They were not ready.
I was the main one getting heat for sitting there and saying that they're not going to make it as a faction, because they don't. They're not. 1 week and one's cut. And I'm going to say this, and I hope everyone is listening, for everyone who loves Hit Row. I do believe that there's another member that will be taken out within another month span. Not one, but I feel like there will be. Yeah. I feel like they're going to get cut down to 2, and they might be a tag, but they also might be Top Dollar wrestling and Swerve being his manager.
I love how you think it's those two too. And because if I said that, I feel like would be biased, because the ones that I see the most potential in is Swerve and Top Dollar personally.
Well, I think they
a little biased. I know them, but like still, like I didn't know who Tahuti was. I didn't really know where B-Fab came from. I was, as a group, I liked them, but I just.
Child, B-Fab used to be security. Okay, that whole time when Rhea and Raquel had a little brawl, B-Fab was out there being security for them, trying to break up the fight. So that's where she came from.
The Keith Lee thing, though, like, I think it's ridiculous how that all went down. You know, we saw him at Survivor Series, I think it was 2019, just kill it. Was one of the main people out there. You know, the Rumble, he came out there and had that moment with Brock, and we all like, oh, that would be amazing. Even Brock was like, oh, big boy. Like, there was so much potential there with Keith Lee. And he put on banger matches. And the fact that, like, they kind of, personally, I think they kind of fucked with him a bit. You know, the way he had to take time off for the health issues, he had to fight for his name. They brought him back. He confirmed on Twitter that the Bearcat shit was never his idea. And then they let him go. Karrion Kross and Scarlett, another two that really shocked me, just because, like, how do you not see money in Karrion Kross and Scarlett as a duo and separately? How did they never want to put Scarlett with Karrion Kross? I know that they wanted her to be a wrestler on her own separately and him doing this thing on their own, but I feel like they could have been together, but also still went doing their own things. I personally thought sometimes, listen, I'm a fan of both of them. I watched them when they're on Impact before this and on the Independents. I've seen Scarlett wrestle too. I know a lot of people have been like, they've never seen Scarlett wrestle. Like, I've seen Scarlett wrestle. I've seen Scarlett wrestle live. I'm not going to sit here and say she's like Charlotte Flair or Sasha Banks, but she can go, and she's got her own appeal to herself. Like, she knows she's hot. She says she want to do a hardcore bra and panties match and teasing an OnlyFans. Like, she knows she's hot. Like, she has her own appeal. And like, I think both and both of them really could have, like, really thrived on the main roster, and it was a really big missed opportunity. And the fact that you didn't want to put them together up there, it's mind-boggling to me. And I think they'll be fine. It's just that one kind of threw me off. And the thing I was gonna say is, I know a lot of, this is not to insult them. I'm saying I watched them before. I know how great they are, and I watch them now. I will say sometimes I even said I think their NXT characters might be too theatric for the main roster. That entrance is dope, but they're not gonna do that every Monday Night Raw and on SmackDown. Vince is not going to give them a 5-minute entrance every single time when they first get called up. They were going to have to strip some things down from that thing on NXT. I always thought that, even before they got called up. I'm like, this is great, they're not going to do this on regular main roster all the fucking time. I didn't think he was going to fully change Karrion Kross and fully change Scarlett like that. She wasn't even on TV, actually, once they got called up. So, like, it's just a bummer. Those are two really big shocking ones to me. And then lastly was Frankie Monet. I thought she had all the potential in the world. But to be honest with you, the character she came in with to NXT, I was like, oh, this kind of looks like they've already, like, dropped the ball with Frankie because she's a wrestler. And she had a character, and you know, Triple H had been really good at not really changing people when they've come in, but they changed her a lot, and they kind of made her something I wasn't used to. I never seen her be this bougie, yada yada yada. So, but once again, I'm gonna go down the list. We'll go one by one. You guys tell me where you think these guys are going really quickly. We'll start backwards up because some of the names are, you know, we don't know like exactly too well, but I think the ones at the top we have really good predictions for. But what do you guys think? Do you guys see Jessie Kamea showing up anywhere? Do you think she'll be a valuable asset to any one of the rosters?
No.
NWA.
She could. That's a good one. Or she could be part of that new WoW that's coming back.
Maybe, or Shimmer, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Zeta Reamer. I didn't really know. Like she.
I knew that was that match I think she had with Toni Storm, and she did that shooting star press.
Yeah.
And I was like, she was really. I liked her, you know. So I was pretty shocked to not see her on TV that much often, even after her winning a match and whatnot. But I believe that I feel like she could go to NWA, or Shimmer or WoW. Maybe Impact. I just think that maybe she can be great going back down into like the Indies or something. She could probably be great, you know, there, and then eventually work her way back up to get into one of these bigger promotions. Who knows? We may see her on AEW Dark or something.
And we'll keep your eyes out for Zeta. I didn't see much of her, so I don't have much of an opinion on where I think she'd end up. But Nikki, do you have a place for Zeta?
Yeah, AEW.
Oni Lorcan. Okay, so Oni Lorcan, in my opinion, is someone that could be an asset anywhere he goes, whether it's him in the ring or him helping other wrestlers out and stuff like that too. He could show up in Impact and he'd be a valuable asset. He can show up in AEW and he'd be a valuable asset wrestling, you know, on Rampages and Darks and stuff like that. I think Oni has a lot to offer. Do you guys see him anywhere?
Impact.
Yeah, I agree. It just sucks. I mean, like he was with Danny Burch, so it's like now they've broken up that tag team and whatnot. So it's like, I mean, he'll be great on Impact, or AEW Dark, somewhere in that nature. I'm not trying to have everybody go to AEW, but you know, put him on Dark, you know.
Yeah, no, and I think he could build his way up there. Like the AEW, trust me, I always think that AEW does not need, like I am the first person to know that AEW does not need to hire any more people. Their roster is stacked, especially in the males division. Men's wrestling thrives on Wednesdays, right, Nikki? So like they definitely don't need to sign more men wrestlers. But when it's a guy like Oni Lorcan, there's a lot he can provide wrestling with the younger talent on Dark and on like random matches on Dynamite and stuff.
But I disagree because how long is CM Punk gonna wrestle?
Probably another 4 years, 5 years. Jeet Rama personally, I think is going to go back to India. That's no disrespect for him, but I'm sure he's on a visa. I don't necessarily think he won't ever come back, but I don't know if his heart was really fully in professional wrestling. But that's just me. Trey Baxter, like we mentioned earlier, is already getting booked for independent.
He already got another job. Okay,
yeah,
skip him.
And I see Oni Lorcan also being on GCW shows and stuff like that as well. Don't get me wrong, but I think Trey Baxter is another one of those guys that I'm not trying to be that guy, but I could see him on Darks. I could see him on Impact.
Yeah, like, but you can fight on Dark and you don't have to be contracted with them.
Exactly. I can see him show up. That's the point.
You can just go up and have Rosa started or something.
Who's the other guy that was in NXT? August Gray. He was doing the stuff with Timothy Thatcher, and now he's like always on Dark. Like that's why I see Oni Lorcan. I mean, that's why I see like Trey Baxter. It's one of those guys that's always showing up there. You're like, oh, he's been NXT. Frankie Monet. I think.
Okay, so I've been waiting on this.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on her contract, she will either show up at Turning Point this month, or she will be at Hard to Kill. That's somebody.
He's going back to Impact.
He's going back.
She's going back
already
longest reigning.
And shout out to Frankie though. Shout out to Taya.
Was Taya the longest? She was the longest reigning Knockouts champion or something for a bit, right?
Yes. So either way, she's gonna go like, and I would love to see her come back at Turning Point, and then have another person who is released.
When is Turning Point?
Turning Point is November the 20th.
Okay. So do remember, all the people that were just on NXT and on the main roster have a 30-day non-compete clause. It's 30 days. If you're on the main roster, it's 90 days. If you're on NXT, it's 30 days.
Well, that doesn't mean they can't hint it, though.
They can definitely hint it.
She doesn't have to show her face.
Yeah.
I just feel like the presence will be felt when Mickie James and Mercedes Martinez meet for that.
And I completely agree with you about her going back to Impact. Yes, she'd once again, another person would be a valuable asset wherever she goes. I don't think the AEW Women's Division deserves her yet.
Absolutely.
They're working on it, but they don't deserve
Absolutely her. Not.
But definitely go back to Impact. She's got a legacy there already, and I feel like Impact's building towards. I know people say this every few years, but it seems like Impact's coming back a little bit.
No, it is. Like shout out to them girls at Impact. Shout out to Tasha Steele.
Their views have been
going up.
Their views have been increasing by Impact.
Ember Moon, Athena, where do we see her rocking out?
AEW Dark.
I genuinely see her going to AEW, just generally.
I think Ember Moon is gonna go to show her face at Impact. I really do. I think she's gonna wait. I think she's gonna train. I think she's gonna go do some indies work. And I think come Hard to Kill, I think Ember Moon is gonna show her face at Impact.
We can have a lot of women showing up.
Hard to Kill. Yeah, I think Hard to Kill is gonna be Scarlett. Never mind.
The next couple, I like. I'm just gonna say them all together. Grand Metalik and Lince Dorado are guys that I can see showing up in AEW too. Even though once again they shouldn't sign anybody else. I think we'll definitely see them in AAA. They can go to Impact. I don't know where. I don't know. Katrina Cortez, who she obviously unfortunately she had visa issues. They fired her and they didn't really. And they've done that not with just her. They did it with the Iconics and a lot of other wrestlers that were from around the world. They don't really consider the fact that the only reason they're allowed to stay here are the inspiration.
You mean the inspiration?
They weren't the only reason they're allowed to stay here is because they were hired by the WWE, and then they had to figure that all out by themselves. It's happened to a handful of wrestlers in the past year because there's been a shitload of releases. But I just like Grand Metalik's dope. I think Lince Dorado's solo by himself could be an asset to like an AEW or something. Grand Metalik would be great wherever too, but I think you probably go back AAA and stuff. I don't know enough about Katarina Cortez to make him. Do you guys have a prediction now?
I think she was like in Lucha Underground.
Yeah,
but that's gone. So she can show up in. Should any of these people can show up in MLW? They can show up in
MLW.
Yeah.
MLW could use some talent too over there.
Yeah.
They're building.
Or Ring of Honor, when Ring of Honor get everything situated and they come back, then hey, I'm pretty sure they're gonna pick up a lot of these people. Probably.
Yeah, I can see Lince Dorado, Grand Metalik, Oni Lorcan. These guys could all be Trey Baxter, could all be Ring of Honor stars without a doubt. Next up, our girl B Fab.
To the studio or something.
I'm not even gonna lie. I feel like she could go and work in NWA. Honestly.
Or if this hashtag works, she might be back on the TV screen.
She could be back.
She could see Mojo come back. We've seen others.
Any female who's been released, I personally should say, go look at the inspirations and what they're doing now and how they capitalized on the inspiration. And they didn't sit there and cry. And they didn't sit there and plead. And they didn't sit there and there wasn't a hashtag bring the inspirations back, because you can't bring the inspirations to WWE.
No, you can only bring
they're the Impact Women's Tag Team Champions
on their debut.
We can all agree that Eva Marie just stays away from wrestling again and focuses on acting and that stuff.
Didn't you say she was in a movie?
Yeah, she's an actress. She's focused on acting.
She got released because she wanted to be an actor. Now go on.
Let her do her thing. And you know what, Vince? I think Vince will always be like, we have ties to Eva Marie. She's a WWE superstar. And
well, we don't care about her next person. Like, I don't even know where she's going to go.
Not Eva Marie. Harry Smith, the David Boy's son, he can go back to New Japan. He can be on New Japan Strong. WWE. He could show up in Impact. I honestly think he's an asset to any company he goes to. Just another guy that can go in there and stir shit up. He can go back to MLW. He was a big name there for a bit as well. I think Harry will be fine. I don't even think Harry liked. Once again, I'm not talking on behalf of Harry. I'm not trying to say anything. I don't fucking know, guys. I don't really fucking know. But I also generally think that Harry's also not the biggest fan of working at the WWE anyway, so I think he'll be fine. Mia Yim. Impact?
Absolutely.
She was there, right? Before?
And she was there. She's had some great matches with Rosemary. And what this can do is if she comes back, once Inspirations defeat Decay at Turning Point, maybe something happens with Mia Yim, and they because they had a long feud. They've been in the 6-sided square cage, and so they have they have a history. So I'm ready for Mia Yim to be able to go to Impact and get her due diligence. And maybe we even see Angela Love, and we have Madison back. There's history between them. So Impact is starting. Mickie James is our current Knockouts champion, 4-time at that. So Impact's women's division is starting to look a little even more crisp with the releases. So
yeah, I agree with you guys. I think Ember could be an Impact. Ember can be an literally, she's an asset anywhere as well. I once again never really been the biggest Ember fan, but I don't think we got to see her wrestle a lot to her best, potential in WWE, especially on the main roster. We're talking about Mia Yim. Wow, botched that one fully.
Justin, where are you, sir?
I was looking at the time and realized we still got to make AEW full gear predictions. Keith Lee is Keith motherfucking Lee could literally go anywhere, and it's hard for me to pick a place because I'm literally anywhere. You can listen. I don't think AEW should sign any more talent, but I wouldn't be mad if Keith Lee showed up there. I don't care if I don't care if he goes to MLW, but if he goes to Dope, when Ring of Honor opens their doors back open, I would like to see him team up with Shane Taylor again. Now that I've watched a bunch of Shane Taylor matches, shout out to Mika, and know that they used to be partners and they have that relationship. You know what I mean? If he showed up in Impact, that would make a fucking impact. Can you imagine Keith Lee stepping up to Moose? It just
out of my head.
Yeah, I Keith Lee's one of those guys that he's listen, we didn't really touch on that part where a lot of the rumors and speculations that WWE doesn't want to hire older people and they don't want to hire women over 25 anymore, and a lot of the issues here could be due to age and them not wanting to hang on to talent that's older than 30 and 40. And Keith Lee's he's a lot of an older guy. He's not a young buck. But even that being said, in my mind, out of this list, like I said before, we're talking about the last 3 people we're talking about right now. No disrespect to the rest of people on the list because they're all really talented and great too. But these last 4 people we're talking about, Keith Lee, Nia Jax, Karrion Kross, and Scarlett, those are some of the hottest free agents on the market right now.
Can I just say something really quick?
Yeah.
Keith Lee versus Josh Alexander. Book it now. I want it. I don't care. I think that Impact, I don't want to see him go to AEW. I don't. And just like you said about Frankie, I don't think AEW doesn't deserve Keith Lee. Do what you're doing with the people that you have been so invested in. And I like to call them the big 3, Adam Cole, Daniel, and CM Punk. Yeah. Do what you do, because what I don't want to happen is Keith Lee goes to AEW as this big name and this big contender and this big deal, and then he's on Dark and just doing that. And that's not Dark. That's just to say that his relevance is of a Brock Lesnar to a company.
And to your point, the AEW's roster is so stacked with top and top mid card guys that they have those top 3. They have the Punk, the Adam Cole, and the Bryan that they've been featuring a lot and try to make sure they feature on every show because that changed the tide for them a little bit. But look at other guys, and I'm not going to say they're not doing stuff. We're going to go through our predictions and we'll talk about some of them. But look, we got Andrade, we got Malachi, we got Miro, we got all these other talents that are already there. Keith Lee's even lost in the shuffle. Not that those guys are lost in the shuffle, they're all doing things. But if Keith Lee showed up there, he could get lost in the shuffle with those guys. Because then outside the top 3 and those guys, you can't forget we have Jericho, we have Sammy Guevara, we have MJF and Darby, and there is so much talent there, guys. anybody else that goes there is not going to be booked. It's like when, like I said, it was like a few years ago when people get signed to the WWE. I'm like, not everybody can be a top guy. There's only so many top spots. Why would you want your favorite wrestler to go somewhere just because it's all hyped up when he doesn't have the potential, not the potential, probably doesn't have the opportunity to be a top guy for a long run, because there's already so many guys there that are going to be, you know, playing the politics or deserving of a push or earned it already. That, like, why would you want Keith Lee to be somewhere on that ranks? Like, hell, look how good Eddie Kingston's doing now. Keith Lee's going to be a step behind Eddie Kingston if he shows up there. Like, there's too many guys in that company that are fucking dope. Let's start building these other companies. Let's get some of these guys in Impact, so people will be like, well, there's WWE, there's AW. Oh, but Impact's actually fucking killing it right now too. Let's get some of them in Ring of Honor. Let's get some of them in MLW. Let's beef up the industry because we have enough big talent to do so. So no matter where Keith Lee goes, I think he's gonna be killer. But I there's a part of me leaning towards, I think it'd be fucking sick if he rolled up an Impact.
And to your point, I just want to say, like, and that's why I don't want to send any of the women to AEW. And the reasoning being is because do what you have with the women you have. There's no reason. What I really loved, and I'm sure we'll get into it more. But
we'll talk about it right now. Where do you guys think Nia Jackson will go? Continue your point. Talk about where you think Nia Jackson will go. Why she shouldn't go to AEW.
I don't think she'll wrestle. I think she'll go like do something. I think she loves WWE too much. Like, I think she was really invested in the family that was built in WWE. I don't think she will. She's not a person for me that would try, and it's not really being spiteful, I guess, but I don't think she would even go anywhere to wrestle. I could be wrong, but I just feel like she's just gonna take some, you know, this is a could be a breaking point for a person. You know, it's almost as if reading what Nia said was so hurtful, and coming from a place where you've given a family, this is like a family business. Could you imagine working for a family business? And then, you know, I think it's real different for someone like a Charlotte Flair, and the reasoning B is because her ties to WWE are gone. Rick is not there anymore. Rick is, you know, doing whatever the hell he's doing, and then Andrade is in AEW. So I think it's different. But with Nia, I think she really genuinely loves World Wrestling Entertainment. I think she genuinely loves Vince McMahon. I think she genuinely loves these people. It's hurting her, but I don't think I don't see her going anywhere else, to be honest.
I feel like Nia will probably do something like maybe model or something, or find some other avenues. But I mean, hey, I don't honestly, I don't think that there is no amount of apologies or I'm sorries that would make her go back. I don't think so. So
I feel like if anyone was to get called back to go back, it would be her.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think she'll go. If she go, it had to be somebody there that would persuade her to say, you know,
she's got friends there.
What they did. Yeah, I understand that. That may be family, but you know,
I think Vince would have to literally pick up the phone and make that call. No matter what Nia said, I just personally think that Vince would have to. It couldn't be Triple H. It couldn't be Stephanie. It couldn't be nobody but Vince. Vince would have to pick up that phone and talk to her and really, like, because that post is just that is riveting.
That would also be the reason why they call her back, was that post, though.
Maybe, but it's still the damage is done.
WWE's PR.
What are you gonna do? Call her back and then what? You put her on the schedule.
Also, I think if it's like budget cuts, if anyone's coming back, they would have to take a pay decrease. I'd suppose.
If that's for what they did to her, she deserved to get a pay increase.
No, I'm with you.
Price is going up.
We got it.
Like, wake it up. Like,
wake it up. Price is going up tomorrow.
I'm not trying to hear none of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like, you know, with Nia, I mean, it is what it is with her. I know that she's gonna find other avenues with Karrion Kross and Scarlett and go back to Impact. Where I don't know half of these BFAB, like I said, she's gonna be at home somewhere. Everybody else, like, they'll find their own avenue. If it's meant for them to be somewhere else, they'll go somewhere else.
But we all agree Karrion Kross and Scarlett, Killer Cross. He's back to being a killer. Or going back.
Great, they can go back to
hard to
Impact.
kill. That's
Because
the
I don't
thing.
feel sorry for him because he wanted to come onto the main roster. This is what happens when you want
I
to come
think
onto the main
everyone
roster.
should be that hungry and want to do stuff, but I think his adamant.
But didn't they almost get Seth Rollins fired?
Exactly.
In NXT, he kept on asking. He kept on asking.
No, I'm
he
not
kept
saying
on
you can't be that adamant sometimes because
Yeah, like you gotta wait your turn. And I think what this is a blessing for Cross because they honestly Impact is about to see the raft of Cross and Scarlett. Like it's gonna be beautiful. This is beautiful for them. That's why sometimes with the releases we have to be more positive. People, it's irritating.
I do feel like they're super positive about it from the looks of social media. Like they're okay with it.
Especially Scarlett.
Killer's gonna be fine. He's already making vignettes and videos for his YouTube channel of his comeback as Killer Cross. Like they love this business. They're already on it and they're gonna be okay. You know what I mean? And they know they can go back to Impact. They know if AEW, Tony's probably like if Tony probably did call them already. Those two people you'd probably want on your roster. Like they're gonna be fine. I think I'm a little excited to see them again. Once again, a little stripped down from the theatrics that they were on NXT. Because, like I said, as much as I like them, I sometimes thought it was a little bit too much. Like I don't need to see Scarlett lip singing and dying to the ground because that's not it was cool, but like there's other ways you can use Scarlett, and I don't need Karrion Kross sometimes being a regular human and then sometimes being like this dark guy. Like I remember watching that In Your House panel. I'm like, this is all he needs to be. Wearing a suit, talking his shit, I'm gonna kick your ass. He doesn't need to be all like dark and stuff. Like I'm ready to see them being back to like Killer Cross, Scarlett, a little bit down on the theatrics, and back to regular business, doing their thing.
The smoke show is coming back.
The smoke show's coming back, and the Killer's coming back. And look at them. They're so easy to hate. They're an attractive couple.
They're very attractive.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they look wonderful together. Yeah, it's almost like porn, to be honest.
Yeah, they complement each other. Like they're so easy to display. Yeah, they have every right to be cocky. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's gonna be great for them. We really got to do our predictions. So I think we're going to start that in the top of the hour. So we got 4 minutes for me to ask you guys this really quick question about WWE before we get into AEW's Full Gear predictions. A lot happened this week on television, but I think the most interesting thing was Liv Morgan approaching Becky Lynch for a potential title shot in the coming weeks. As Becky was all like, "Oh, I beat Bianca because she beat Bianca earlier in the night on Raw by cheating." And Becky was all like, "Oh, Bianca's under my league. She's not. I'm done with her. Yada yada yada." Which I'm sure they'll circle back to Bianca and Becky by the New Year's pay-per-view. But Liv Morgan stepped up.
I just want to say really quickly why, since my partner enjoys her water. What Justin meant to say was the most interesting thing was Charlotte giving Roman his show back on Friday Night SmackDown after her taking the lead as his absence was necessary.
He was walking on naked on vacation, okay? And the show was almost as bad as Raw.
Anyway, and Charlotte had to fly to the UK. So thanks for doing her job on Friday. But anyway, back to the point of Liv. Who is Liv Morgan is the real question. She has no character. And it really is, it's almost like Bianca has to move out of the way to give this poor girl an opportunity. What's really baffling to me, honestly, is that I don't know what's holding her back. I really don't. And I really think that her getting put into the the Survivor Series team, I think she's going to end up winning. I think this is going to be their way of saying, "Oh, she went through so many competitors." She's almost going to get, in a sense, if they do it, a Becky treatment, in a sense, to where people did feel sorry for Becky, Hopefully, and I'm just going to end with this, anything that goes on with Liv Morgan and the rise of her becoming a champion, leave Charlotte out of it. Thank you, management.
Also, I want to point out there was that picture I was floating around where when Becky left because she was pregnant, she was hugging Liv Morgan and she said those things of like, "You'll be champion by the time I'm back," and she's not. She hasn't. And do you think Santana, I'm gonna let you take over from this question. Do you think this is more of like a sympathy title shot? Because I agree with Nicki. I've said it many times. I'm like, I like Liv Morgan. I like Gianna the person a lot more. She's a great personality on her YouTube channel and on Instagram and stuff. But Liv Morgan, the character has always been kind of lost. There is no character. There's no story. If in the coming weeks they can give me a story where she's like the ultimate underdog or something, or like try to rehash that what we got from the 24 special that they never capitalized on, like maybe I'd care more. But I feel like she was Liv in the Riot Squad, tongue out, Harley Quinn like juvenile delinquent to being Liv the girlfriend of Lana, trying to be a pretty girl again or something. They did those vignettes back to being the Riot Squad Liv to now she's just kind of like in limbo without a, like I can't define who Liv Morgan is to a fan that's never watched. Like, who's Liv Morgan? If I was sitting with a buddy that's never watched wrestling before and like, oh, so who is she? Like, what's her character? I'd be like, she's
look at that. Top of that hour, 4 minutes up.
But Santana, go ahead.
I would say that if they wanted Liv to hold a title, she would have won Money in the Bank when she was on SmackDown, and then she would possibly be holding this title right here. She would be, but however, she's not. And we already know who's holding it, the Queen, Charlotte Flair, as of this moment. Although she took vacation so that Roman can take the lead of the show Friday night, because it seems like to me Friday was pretty good without his absence. As I may proceed, we continue on with Liv and Becky. I will say I don't know what it's gonna do. Like, are they really gonna let Becky drop this title to Liv? How would this feud play out? Will it be, oh, Becky, remember when you told her when you got pregnant and you whispered in my ear how much I was going to be a champion by the time you came back, and look what happened. I'm not a champion. You lied to me. You made me feel like I was really about to be this next star, and I'm really not. So I blame you for giving me all these hopes and dreams to think that I'm going to be holding this title. So you know what? I'm going to prove you wrong, and you know what? I am going to be a champion, and I'm going to take care of our women's title. That Liv needs to come out, but Liv's like a 12-year-old girl, so I can't really take her serious. So I mean, it's like, what are they gonna do? Honestly,
and it really takes one promo or one segment to really build this if they do it properly. Like, maybe we'll get on Raw this week, but then to top it off, all that aside, I kind of feel like because Survivor Series is still this whole brand wars thing, you got thrown up in limbo because now she's in the Survivor Series match. And I get it needs to be champion versus champion. And I get it's probably going to be Becky versus Charlotte. Because realistically, they teased us with starting something with Shotzi and Charlotte, which turned into a thing between Shotzi and Sasha. And they teased starting something with Liv and Becky, which I think is going to end up just being Becky and maybe Bianca and someone else while Becky focuses on Charlotte. I think Liv gets a title shot, and then after that title shot, it's right back into getting prepared for Survivor Series because they announced the teams for Survivor Series. I'm going to quickly talk about those teams right now, but do you have something to say about that?
Can I say really quick? I don't think Charlotte's going to be champion when Survivor Series comes around.
Who's going to be if it's not Sasha right now, who could it be?
Raquel Gonzalez comes up and beats Charlotte.
Raquel still has business to finish with Dakota.
Does she really? You know how many times they started? You know how many times
that, and guess what? Tegan Knox, did Tegan Knox, she's still there?
She's still there.
Okay. She literally cost Candice LeRae her tag team title with Indy and left.
And where she
so is? Y'all can check out my article on Women's Wrestling Talk where I talk about Dakota and Raquel. My favorite feud, one of the greatest women's feuds.
We got 2 weeks to Survivor Series. Nikki will probably go, and we will find out if Raquel comes to the main.
Charlotte can drop at any time. I'm just telling y'all. That's all.
It doesn't hurt. Like I said, any one of those women can drop those 4 horsewomen can drop the title.
Not Becky. They won't do it to Becky.
But I just know it'll never hurt them if they like.
Becky needs a title to be relevant. Hello.
Boom. Oh wow!
What's not clicking here?
That's what Liv Morgan needs to say.
But onto the team.
Let me write Liv Morgan's script promo, and hopefully that she reads it the way it needs to be read.
Well, that's basically it because like I said, it just takes one and we'll talk about it when we do the full gear predictions. It takes one promo to get things really kicking. That happened with CM Punk and Eddie Kingston. But first, Survivor Series.
Becky's gotten better though.
Her promos have gotten better,
but she still needs the title to be relevant.
How do you guys feel about the men's Raw team? It's Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, Rey Mysterio, and Dominic.
That's a pretty wow.
I think WWE is trying to compete with the men's wrestling satisfaction that AEW is doing. And I think that
men's wrestling is thriving on
men's wrestling is thriving on Wednesdays. I'm telling you, and 1 hour on Friday nights, 9 p.m. TNT. But listen, I do believe that they're mixing it up in a sense, and I'm way more interested in the women.
We'll get to the women, but
Raw's team gonna lose. I'm gonna let you know right now.
Yeah, I just find it fascinating, and I forgot who tweeted out. One of you guys shared in the thing too that literally the entire Raw team was just on SmackDown a couple of months.
Yeah,
they were,
and that's my issue with the Raw versus SmackDown thing happening at Survivor Series. Listen, I'm not against the brand versus brand thing, but then maybe do the draft like after WrestleMania or something.
Right.
Because for somebody to be loyal to their brand a month, like literally weeks after they got drafted a new brand, like it's kind of like it just does like.
I'm happy about Happy Corbin. That's something to be happy about.
And it's also like with a lot of these people, we've seen them switch brands. So like Kevin Owens, not Seth necessarily, but he has switched a lot in the last few years. But Kevin Owens has been to Raw and SmackDown back and forth a bunch of times. Same with Ray, same with Finn. It's just like Finn was just on NXT. Like, who was he really loyal to? I don't know.
I personally just don't like, and I love Kevin Owens. I just personally don't enjoy the Raw men's team as much as I do with SmackDown, even though Drew is on the team. I will say this. I think Drew looks better on the blue brand. I think he'll do a great job leading the blue brand, but I think that King Woods is going to show him who's really a leader of the blue brand and probably get the win, if not save.
I feel like this will be a
we got Drew, Jeff Hardy, King Woods, Sammy, and Baron Corbin. Go ahead, Santana.
I feel like this would be the way to kind of show Xavier's kingness that he has with leading this team. Although, we're going to have Jeff is going to be chill, listen to Boys to Men, probably awaiting everybody to figure out what they're going to do. But I feel like, Drew, he may bump heads with Sami Zayn and probably Baron Corbin, or Happy Corbin and Maddox, Happy, whatever the man name is back there.
Happy Corbin.
No,
Riddick Moss.
Whatever, Maddox, that's his name for me.
His friend.
The guy who can laugh uncontrollably, that just don't make any sense. But I feel like when I look at this team and I look at Raw's team, Seth is definitely going to try to be the leader all the way. And Kevin is probably going to stunner him if he gets eliminated. So I just feel like this is it's gonna be very interesting to see this match.
Do you guys think Kevin Owens is out of here in 3 months?
Yes.
Kevin is out there.
He made those comments. What, 3 months or 3 years?
Wrap it up.
And then Big E made this is Monday Night Raw. Not everybody can be.
And I think this is probably what's gonna separate Adam Cole for a long time from Kenny Omega, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like this is gonna cause a rift or something.
Everyone just wants to go wrestle with their friends, and I think Kevin Owens.
Yeah, that's all.
Because the Young Bucks, Adam Cole, Kenny Omega, those are his friends. I don't. As much as I don't want to see Kevin leave the WWE, I also know they've done really well with Kevin Owens. If you look at his entire booking in the long term, like what he got to do, being the Universal, like Kevin Owens was never really poorly booked. Hell, at the beginning of this year, he was having a banger feud with Roman Reigns. But I will say in the last few months, I've kind of been like, unless they put the title on him again, what else is there left for him?
Well, and he's been very vocal about not wanting to be in the spotlight, not wanting to, having to work as much, not putting holding that title is a lot of pressure. And he knows how it feels to have that success. So
can you imagine having Kevin Steen and Chris Jericho back together again? Again now? Let's look at the women's side because we're still going to make our predictions for Full Gear. Team SmackDown is, of course, the boss, the blueprint, the GOAT, the standard, the conversation, the Mandalorian DDTing Sasha Banks, Shayna Baszler.
Just said that girl name. We ain't got time for all that.
The Queen of Spades, the 2-time NXT Women's Champion, because something Sasha couldn't do. Only other one is Charlotte.
Spicy.
I don't know if we need that big of an introduction for Shayna Baszler.
Introduce Shayna like you did.
The
Sasha.
former tag team, women's champion.
We got Shotzi Blackheart. We got the Queen of Hearts, Natalya.
Natty, come on!
We got one half of the. We got one half of the Bougie Enigmas with Jeff Hardy, Aaliyah.
Child, please.
What?
She's a Tori Wilson.
Shout out to that girl.
Shout out to Aaliyah for making the team. Hold on. First of all, can I just say this? Yeah. Because I feel like you mean to tell me you chose Aaliyah over Toni Storm
and Naomi.
Well,
okay.
I
will always argue.
Don't say it, Justin.
Naomi's in
a few. Okay. So is Shotzi and Sasha. But they
Naomi's feuds with the Authority. Don't you not say?
Anyway, they should have had.
Next segment on SmackDown's gonna be Naomi like, why the fuck aren't I on the team? And Sonya being like, well, yeah, I don't deserve it. Like,
I hope you don't say it like that.
We're not even gonna get into this storyline. I'm just gonna say this: Sasha Banks, the boss, the blueprint, the standard, the blue hair queen. She is not the leader of this team. Okay, we needed someone like Natty.
Different.
We needed someone like
Natty is going to be the leader.
Shout out to Natty for representing. Shout out to Natty for getting. She's gonna get the win.
But
shout out to Natty. She doesn't need a title.
Aaliyah is going to get eliminated first.
Natty's there to hold Aaliyah's hand and teach her how to be.
Aaliyah is going to get eliminated.
But Natty's so needed here because we need a leader. We need someone. We know Sasha has a hard time leading sometimes. In the ring, I know she's a great
her ego's too big. Her ego's too big to be a
Sasha's a great leader behind the stage, but we know in the ring she lets her ego get to her. She doesn't know if she's a face or a heel sometimes, and it's riveting to see her play this role.
It's gonna be Natty and Shayna trying to make their team work when Shotzi and Sasha want to chop each other's heads off. So I understand where you're coming from because and Aaliyah's gonna have and Natty's gonna be holding Aaliyah's hand, and being like, "This is how we do wrestling."
Listen, she was like the longest person in NXT.
I will say this. Yes, it could have been Toni Storm too, but I do like that they're trying to feature some of the newer faces on SmackDown in like Shotzi and Aaliyah.
Toni is a new face.
I know she is. That's what I'm saying. That would have worked too. But I'm saying I do appreciate them trying to put some new faces on this team.
Aaliyah can't wrestle. Why are we here?
I don't know if she can or can't. I haven't seen it.
She cannot. She cannot. I'm telling you.
I'm not going to make a judgment here. I don't know.
Go watch one of her matches from the last 7 years she's been in NXT, and you do the math.
Aren't they always like quick squash matches and stuff?
Exactly. And what were they?
Tell by that.
No, girl, listen, if they cared about her wrestling, she would have longer matches.
Yeah,
looking at this graphic though, by the way, looking at this graphic though, I want her to win the women's title, Shayna Baszler, for sure. Don't get me wrong, I really do want her to win the women's title, but her and Natty would be a pretty cool tag team.
Absolutely not. We moved Shayna down to SmackDown so that she do not be in a tag team.
On the Raw team, we have the toughest, the strongest, the baddest, the EST of the WWE, Bianca Belair. She was the first drafted to the team. So I'm sorry, you can do it.
No, that is not. You do your Sasha, okay? That's great. But when it comes to the EST of WWE, the quickest, the roughest, the toughest, the fastest, the strongest, the best. Like, girl,
put some respect, Justin.
Like, listen, you have your Sasha moment, but when it comes to Bianca Belair, the former SmackDown Women's Champion, please let's stop. We're not going to do that. Okay. Thank you for your time. And now you may proceed with Rhea Ripley.
We have Rhea Ripley, one half of the women's tag team champions on the team as well. The former NXT women's champion as well. Former Raw women's champion. Was second draft on the team. Then we got the ultimate underdog, Liv Morgan, on the team there. She will be getting a title shot. And I don't think she's going to win because she's on this team.
Ain't nobody said she get no title shot. She just said
that was announced. Did Adam Pearce approve that?
Man, that man is still recovering from his beatings from Brock Lesnar. I don't think he's been approving anything but fines.
Anyway, can we move on to somebody that has a title?
Now we got the moonwalking.
That's actually held a title.
Most beautiful.
That's actually held that title. That's Santana.
My homie Carmella. She's on the team because she deserves to be on that team, and she's on the team not alone. She's there with her newfound friend. They've been off and on friends for the last few months. The queen herself, Zelina Vega. They just beat the women's tag champions on Raw this past week. They're probably going to be the women's tag champions by the time Survivor Series comes around, hopefully. But we got Carmella and Queen Zelina on the team. Woo. If anything, they will bring some funny-ass entertainment to this team. Zelina's going to try to act like she's the leader because she's the queen. Carmella's going to act like she's the leader because she's the most beautiful woman in the WWE. But Bianca's probably going to shut them down. And
this is also the first time I've ever seen Carmella on the team for Raw.
First time she's ever representing Raw.
So this is going to be a good shine for her. I really think she's going to be put in a place where she could really, honestly, I hope Bianca takes the win overall, but I really think Carmella might take the win and steal it from Liv if Liv doesn't go over.
I gotta say, Liv and Bianca standing tall at the end.
That's a good observation.
We're gonna Rhea out now because Rhea,
and Carmella are gonna screw over Rhea.
Yeah. Whatever. But yeah, that could happen because she's there holding titles.
Because it is funny that Rhea's not on a team with her tag partner yet. Carmella and Zelina are the only.
As Carmella stays booked. Oh,
yeah.
I mean, Zelina's now getting booked. And she's a queen.
But my toughest thing is who's gonna eliminate Bianca. That's the one thing. Like I can't see anyone suitable to just eliminate Bianca unless it's some sort of
unless it's dealing with Shayna. I mean,
if she gets rolled up by an Aaliyah.
Let me tell you something. If that happens, I'm flying to Survivor Series.
Aaliyah probably get her first win, get her first pin on Bianca. Then I'm gonna just send my condolences to Santana and say this is what we've been going through with Charlotte for years. Okay, so I'm sorry that it has to be her.
That's not gonna happen. I'm sorry.
That's just terrible.
But what I will say is that we have 3 NXT women that 2 of them on the same side and 1 is on the opposite side. We got Rhea and we have Bianca, and then we got Shayna over here who has beaten both of them.
That's true.
For that title right there. That Nicki is holding up the NXT women's.
And the one thing I love about the women's division, I really couldn't say about the men's division. No disrespect to Ray and some of the other people on the other side, like Sammy and stuff. They're all doing stuff in their characters, but there's a lot of big characters and stories with the women that are established. It's gonna be cool to have a Sasha Bianca moment. It's gonna be cool. Liv and Carmella have been feuding each other for the last 7 months. It's gonna be cool to see Shotzi and Sasha interact. There's a lot of layers to this compared to this. I'm not saying there wasn't layers between Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins and maybe Sammy and Drew again to something, but on the women's side, there's gonna be a lot of moments where
it's active.
We got Bianca and Sasha again. We got
active.
Yeah, it's very active.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking forward to Survivor Series. I like the traditional tag matches. I wish they built this up more rather than just drafting them on Twitter. But we need to talk about Full Gear really quickly. We need to make our predictions for the show because it is this upcoming Saturday, guys. AEW Full Gear. A lot's going down. I'm going to open up the card right now, and we're going to start from the bottom, and we're going to make our predictions. A 6-man tag match, Falls Count Anywhere, Christian Cage and the Jurassic Express versus the Super Click, Adam Cole, Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson. We've seen these 2 groups kind of feud each other for the last couple of weeks. We saw Christian Concerto, Adam Cole on Dynamite. Who do you see going over here?
Wherever Adam Cole is where I'm at.
Exactly. I was just going to say any team Adam Cole's on is winning. So
we ain't gonna get into it.
Yeah, I know. I think you can't have Adam Cole and the Young Bucks lose just yet. I think Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, they're going to be fine. I think Christian losing doesn't hurt Christian because he's Christian. If I can be honest with you, I know this match will be fun and it'll be good and it'll be chaotic, just like most Young Bucks and Super Click matches like this. It's going to be very PWG. I'm not saying I don't care, but I also this is not the match I'm most excited for, I'll say. It'll be fun. It's just it's one of those feuds where it's like I feel like they could be doing more with Adam Cole, and I think that's what's going to happen following this pay-per-view moving forward. But as of right now, like the thing is that Adam Cole and the Young Bucks win on this night, and then Kenny Omega loses, they got something to brag about, and that might not sit well with Kenny, and I think that's what we might move forward with in the future. Darby Allin versus MJF in a singles match, two of the pillars of AEW, the young stars.
It's definitely going MJF. I just don't see Darby going over there, man.
I like Darby, but MJF, he's amazing on the mic. I tell you that he knows how to ruffle. He knows there's a black man.
Listen, okay. their tussle was crazy, and that promo.
How's that man on that oxygen tank?
That promo that he was cutting on Darby while Darby was just in the audience, that shit, like that's men's wrestling at its finest.
MJF is one of the best talkers in the business. Honestly, the promos against each other have been great. The brawl on Dynamite has been great. And I like how MJF said stuff like, look, all these guys came to this company, but guys like me and you, we were never worried because we knew where we stand in this company. And it's true. Anybody, because there might be people out there complaining like, oh, look at AEW just pushing all the old WWE stars like Malachi and Andrade and Cody and Punk and Adam Cole and Bryan. But it's like, no, look, they're still building their young stars. We got like a feud between MJF and Darby Allin. That's two of the brightest young stars. So I think it's cool that they're going to be feuding. I don't know who to predict to win. I feel like Darby needs the win because the last pay-per-view lost to CM Punk, and he hasn't really done anything since, to be honest. And as much as I'm an MJF mark, and if you ask me who I like better, I like MJF just a little bit better than Darby Allin. I think Darby needs the win. I think Darby needs a big win here. And I think it's okay if he gets it against MJF. I think if for some reason Wardlow, because they've been teasing it since they've been put together, if Wardlow somehow costs MJF the victory here in some way, you can start building towards them officially maybe having their blow off. And it happening because of Darby Allin. That's just my prediction there. Because we need stories in this company. I love that they give us dream matches and great matches, but we need more stories. And I'm not saying they're horrible at it because they've told great stories with MJF and Jericho. They're doing it with America's Top Team in the Inner Circle, kind of. They did it with they're doing it right now with CM Punk and Eddie Kingston, which we'll get to in a couple of minutes, but I think Darby wins here, and I think this is more of I think we see like MJF slap Wardlow after the match and some shit go down. The Inner Circle versus the Men of the Year and America's Top Team, Junior Dos Santos, Andre Alvaski, and Dan Lambert. I just want to say the promo that the Inner Circle pulled on America's Top Team on Dynamite was funny. I really want to see Paige get in the ring and wrestle somebody, even if it's a man. I'm okay with it. I want to see Paige fight because she's
she said she could take on all of them.
And Jericho made a funny ass joke, which made me laugh.
Oh, get in there.
Yeah, so get in there. But I do want to see her get in there. But to you guys' point, I think the Inner Circle. There's no reason for America's Top Team to win and the Men of the Year. It's just this needs to end. As good as some of the promos have been, I still can't find myself giving a fuck about it. I feel like they're wasting. Sammy Guevara could be doing something else. I think Santana and Ortiz could, be feuding the Lucha Brothers, which I'm not mad that the FTR is in there, but we could have like a 3-way tag match with the FTR, Santana, Ortiz, and the Lucha Brothers. Instead, they're stuck in this thing with America's Top Team because mainly Jericho and Jake Hager were beefing with them, but now the whole Inner Circle is. When Sammy's a TNT champion, shouldn't he be defending that belt? And personally, like if he has it, defend it. Like that's just my mindset on a big pay-per-view. You only have 4 of them a year. I don't know, but I'm cool with it, and I think Inner Circle. Nicki?
Yeah, I don't want to see the Inner Circle lose ever, to be honest. Yeah, I feel like they're one of the greatest factions that we have at this point. And once again, why would we want something to lose where men's wrestling is thriving? Like, you don't want your big piece. Like, put these men in costumes. Let them wrestle. Let them feud. Build stories, it's vital.
I agree. Men's wrestling is thriving, so we need
the fight matches for the men.
Man, please. Shorter shorts.
The Lucha Brothers versus FTR for the AEW Tag Team Championship. We saw FTR defeat the Lucha Brothers for the AAA titles under masks. Listen, it was a big moment. The Lucha Brothers won the tag titles from the Young Bucks in that cage match. It was super cool. I was hyped for them. But I fuck with FTR, and I just want FTR to win the belts. I want FTR to hold all the belts. And I
do like them way better, like seeing them. There's just a different presence that they have in this company. I don't know what it is. I think they're taken more serious.
They get to talk.
They do.
Get to have their twang in their voices.
I make a lot of jokes about them, by the way. So
I know it's fun, but I genuinely think
I want to give them their credit.
They're like tag team specialists. And
yeah,
they should be the ones holding that division up for notice and being the ones leading that division. Everyone has to get through them to win those belts. Yeah, they did the thing with the Young Bucks and they lost the belts to Young Bucks. Personally, thought the Young Bucks held the belts hostage for a little bit longer than they needed to. And I feel like FTR is that team that's going to hold this tag team division up to a certain standard. And I feel like they couldn't really do that with their first run because it was all leading to their match with the Young Bucks. Santana?
I think for me, I'm going with FTR. I don't really know much about the Lucha Bros like that. I mean, I've seen their matches and whatnot, and how you guys proved my point about 32,000 super kicks that happened in the match with the Young Bucks. But I think it'll be a great match. I know FTR through Revival. Somehow they just look alike. They remind me of Revival so much. It's just like I just like wow, they look like these people I know.
Stay
yes, they really do look like those.
They really do, and I'm just like,
they do. I wasn't gonna say
I like them. I like them. I'm going to go with FTR for the Revival. I love it. Let's go. I'm
here for the Revival. That being said, and I love the new theme music. I love the seriousness. I watched Dark, like the first little bit of Dark, and they cut a promo sitting on like the front porch of Dax's house, I think it was. And I'm just like, this is like old school wrestling. And I know how much I love old school wrestling, guys. I'm trying to get them on my show so we can just talk about old school. I don't even want to talk about AEW. I want to talk about old school wrestling with them. And I love that they're like us, they're wrestling fans, and I love that, and I love that how much they care. And listen, a lot of people care about being single stars. These motherfuckers care about being the best tag team in the world, and that's not a thing that's like very common these days because everyone wants to be a single star. There's always someone in a team that wants to be the single star. These guys don't. They want to be the greatest tag team that's wrestled. Everyone won every tag team title, and I appreciate that so much. And they get to work with Tully, who's someone they look up to because they really do remind me of Tully and Arn Anderson as a tag team, and like everything about them I fucking love. And I want them to be known as the greatest tag team when it's all said and done. Personally, like I genuinely am saying that. And the Lucha Brothers, I'm glad they won the tag titles because like it would be a shame if the Lucha Brothers, Pentagon and Phoenix as brothers, never won the tag team titles. I remember when they tried to pair up like Phoenix with Pac for the tag titles, a Pentagon and Pac. I'm like, no, it needs to be Pentagon and Phoenix. Like they need a reign as a tag team champions as brothers, and they got it now. But the difference between them and FTR is like I also don't mind Pentagon and Phoenix as separate single stars. So if that's the case, then they had their tag title reign. They will forever be in the history books as a former AEW tag team champions. Now let them go flourish as single stars. Because there was a brief moment where Pentagon was feuding with Cody, and I fucking loved it. And I wanted that to go on for longer. And Rey Fenix was standing on these solo matches. I'm like, oh, this is great. So they're okay separate or together. So now that they've had the title reign, let them go be separate and do their thing, and let FTR just run this division. Because AEW does have, if I personally think, one of the best tag divisions for men's wrestling in the industry, because men's wrestling is thriving on Wednesday nights and for 1 hour on Friday nights. Moving forward, speaking more about men's wrestling, the AEW World Championship Eliminator Tournament Finals, which I thought was going to be Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley. And like I mentioned earlier, I thought it could go either way because I do think, early spoiler, that Hangman's going to win the title. And I thought seems like Moxley was turning heel and becoming like this vicious bad guy that I've wanted for a while. That it would make sense that Hangman's first opponent would be a former world champion and someone who's losing his mind like a Jon Moxley. Unfortunately, we know what happened with Jon Moxley. Enter Miro, who's been talking to God for the last few weeks since he's lost the TNT title, asking for God to show him why what happened, and then somehow was given the privilege and opportunity to take Moxley's spot in the match against, I believe it was Orange Cassidy, and Miro won. So now the finals is Bryan Danielson versus Miro, which the match, I'm sure the match would be tremendous. But now I actually don't know which way to go, because I think Miro versus Hangman would be cool and something really big for Miro. But then on the flip side, Bryan fucking Danielson is Bryan fucking Danielson.
Well, and I think the ticket is Hangman and Daniel. Let's just be honest. Like, I mean, Miro is Miro, and I think the one thing that Miro has created in the AEW league, if you want to call it, is his own damn division. Who is topping Miro? If we want to be honest, like he's not giving a big ticket to another superstar, in my opinion. Like, I feel like Hangman can do that. So yeah, I think Miro's gonna take the L on this one.
That guy Bryan Danielson, he reminds me a lot like this guy Daniel Bryan. Like, so I'm gonna go with that guy that I know over there that used to be like a, very similar trunks and everything. So I'm gonna go with that guy. He looks like somebody I know.
Okay.
You know what? You know what? I personally.
Oh wait, and Miro didn't Miro used to have a theme song? Like, was it Miro Day or something? It was something like Day with it. I don't know, but he looks familiar too.
Used to sound like Blood on the Leaves from fucking.
Yes. Yeah, I like that.
I'm just gonna be the devil's, and I'm probably wrong, because low key I want the American Dragon to win. I want Bryan Danielson to win, and I think Bryan Danielson and Hangman is money, because even if they're both baby faces, like Bryan Danielson's there to kick some fucking heads in, and he doesn't give a fuck if you're a face or heel. He wants to wrestle and have the best matches with everybody, and remind everyone that, listen, I get a bunch of young stars that coming up, but I'm fucking Bryan fucking Danielson. And I'm the best. And he's had bangers with everybody he's wrestled with. There's Omega, Kingston, everybody. He had a great match with Max Caster on Rampage this past week. So, like, I get the Danielson.
No, didn't he face? I thought he faced Anthony.
Oh, you faced the other one in the group?
Who's Anthony?
Anthony, the other one in the group.
Owens.
Yeah.
Please put some respect
on the Acclaim.
We're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that on the Acclaim. Shout out to the boys. Shout out to the boys holding down Dark. You talk about tag teams.
This is going to be a 2-hour show. I was gonna say though, but I think Miro could win, only because there's so it's November. I think there's usually like a 2-month break before we get to the next pay-per-view, which is Revolution, which is usually in February. So I think Miro could get his title shot before the next pay-per-view with Hangman. And it will give Miro a little bit of like a direction, while you could always come back to Bryan and Hangman by Revolution. So I'm gonna say Miro. I think Hangman having his first defense against Miro, say at like AEW, I forget what they call their winter show, Winter's Coming or something at the end of the year, is a big enough match to have in a special episode of Dynamite prior to Hangman defending against maybe a Bryan Danielson or someone else by Revolution. That's just me. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Miro. I don't know. That's just my prediction. Then we got, let's talk about a little bit of women's wrestling really quickly. Let's talk about the women's wrestling in AEW. We got none other than the DMD herself, Britt Baker, along with Rebel and Jamie Hayter, against Tay Conti with Anna Jay in her corner for the AEW Women's Championship. If you listened to the show a couple weeks ago, we said so crazy they're doing this whole TBS title tournament, and we still don't even know who Britt Baker's even feuding for the Women's Championship, right? That was our complaint. And then Tay Conti, who I believe got eliminated from the tournament, I'm pretty sure she was in it, somehow became the number one contender. Like that.
Can I say this?
I don't think she was ever in the tournament.
Just because you face the DMD doesn't mean you're feuding with her. You got to be on her level, okay? So let's talk about it. There's no way in anything, I don't even care if Tay Conti herself had the full gear herself. There's no way that she's walking out with what Britt Baker, the DMD herself, makes relevant. She is the biggest attraction to women's wrestling when it pertains to AEW. She is a big contender. She is a big name. She is honestly the greatest woman of AEW history. And to be honest, shout out to her for making these women relevant. Because it's a whole tournament going on, and yet it's still about the doctor. So I think it's just a filler. If she goes, if Tay Conti was to go over, I wouldn't be upset. I just think we have to be realistic here, you know.
I'm going to go with Britt. I could care less for Tay Conti. She doesn't do anything for me. There is no excitement there. I mean, she's the same girl who, I know she used to be like this whole Brazilian like mixed martial arts like wrestler down in NXT, and then didn't go nowhere. And she comes over, shortens her name, change her last name, go over to AEW, and still not relevant. I mean, it just doesn't do anything for me. So I mean, like, hey, I mean, this is a filler match. I wish somebody else was in this position other than Tay Conti.
There's just not a story. It's not a deep enough story for me. I'm not saying that Tay Conti's wouldn't be definitely like a good contender in some other way, but they didn't build up for me to care enough. What I said when I introduced the match is how I felt. I felt like Britt didn't have a contender, and then some shit happened after a match, some after fight after a match happened, and somehow Tay Conti raised the belt, and that made her the number one contender. I'm not saying she doesn't have a record or she hasn't been picking up wins on Dark. I get all that. But if for someone that watches Dynamite and Rampage religiously every week and Dark every other week, like, I don't know that, and I don't care. Like, it just, and for me, like, I like in my mind, like, weren't Tay Conti and Anna Jay just feuding with the Bunny and Penelope? I don't even feel like they wrapped that up properly. Like, yeah, there was matches, but never that like a official tag team, like maybe like a Street Fighter or something to fully wrap up that feud. And next, you know, now Tay Conti's wrestling Britt Baker, who literally was feuding nobody. Because to be honest with you, they put most of her potential contenders in the tournament. So like she had nobody to wrestle. Because she could have wrestled Nyla, she could have wrestled Jade, she could have wrestled Thunder Rosa again. But instead, they're all in that tournament. So it was like, well, who's not in the tournament that we could potentially put there? Will this maybe highlight Tay Conti? Will this maybe be her breakout match that potentially makes us seem like a contender in the future? For sure. But this is one of your 4 pay-per-views. Could have done this on a Dynamite.
I feel like, you know, we're pretty sure there's only going to be one winner of this TBS title and whatnot. So hopefully those who do not win that tournament could possibly be some next opponents for Britt Baker, like a Nyla Rose. I can care less for Thunder Rosa, like a Nyla Rose. I feel like that could be great. I mean, all right, I really don't want Jade to win it, but everybody keeps pushing it for her to win this title, and I really don't want it to. But I feel like, you know, she could. Her and Britt already had some shit going on Twitter anyway. So why not bring it to the forefront and utilize it the same way they use like with Jade and Red Velvet, who's fighting again for the 30th time. Bring that to the forefront or something like that. If Jade is not the winner of this tournament.
I also think too, Britt has to somehow cost someone the tournament. This can't just be a tournament and she not involve herself. She also is going to probably be the first woman to hold both of those titles. And to that point, depending on who wins, she could challenge for that title and be a double champion. And no one's thinking about that. I think that the issue is that what Justin said. There's no story. And when you're not building story with someone who is cutting some of the best damn promos of women's wrestling, you got to be out of your mind. Like, there's no purpose of her not. We're getting down to the final women. She has to cost someone this match. And that's the only way that we're going to be able to move past a potential dropping. Because let's be honest. If we want to be honest, the way that people think, when is Roman gonna lose his title? When is Britt?
So, to your point, now that you brought up that idea, because she could cost someone the match, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for in this tournament for her to have the next feud. But looking at the bracket, the only way that would, in my mind, once again, it could happen any other way. There could just be some words from Twitter or some backstage altercation that causes it. But without any of that happening yet, the only thing I can see happening is Jamie Hayter defeated Anna Jay this past week on Dynamite in a solid match, and is going forward to face Thunder Rosa. Does Britt help Jamie Hayter by costing Thunder Rosa the match? Because that's her girl.
I mean,
or do we wait till we get to the
could, but she could also
wait till we get to the semifinals and we get Jade?
Well, she also, that's what I'm saying. It would make more sense. She's already went through with Thunder Rosa. I'm not trying to go back to that.
No, I know
like, that's just my thing.
Yeah.
Like I understand that Thunder Rosa is a big deal to a lot of people, but she ain't no big deal to me, especially when you talking about somebody like Britt, if we just being real. And my thing to that is, it costs more when you're costing Jade the title more than you're costing Thunder Rosa. I personally think the TBS title is going to Thunder Rosa because she needs something to do. People are really every time I would watch Dark and I would hear Paul White, who looks like this dude named Big Show, would talk about her. I would see this thing and he would always say the same thing. Oh, she's been wrestling. She's done so much in a short time. Okay, so have a lot of women. Let's not create this narrative, and let's not do this narrative because she doesn't. One thing, y'all can say what y'all want to about Jade, but no matter what, even if she's wrestling or squash matches, she's gonna make the presence there. And I think that Thunder Rosa should do the title thing, and then Britt costs Jade, and Jade take the title off Britt, and then have Britt take the title off Thunder.
Once again, I'm going up based off the bracket. There's two routes to go if we're focusing on Jamie Hayter, though, because you got to remember Jamie Hayter's Britt's girl. That's a person she'd probably want to try to help out unless there's some sort of backstage altercation. Jamie's beat Anna. So if Jamie beats Thunder Rosa, and I think we're all pretty sure Jade's going to beat Red Velvet, the match after that would be Jamie Hayter versus Jade Cargill. At that point is where you could have Britt.
Well, I think the point that you're missing that I'm trying to make is she doesn't give it, like, as much as those are her girls, she don't give a damn. They don't have to be involved in the match for her to help
I don't expect her to go cost Nyla Rose.
She could cost anybody the match. Like, it doesn't have to have.
Why? Because it doesn't affect her. It's not even for her title.
Because that builds a feud. She could literally just go after. She could go after anybody. She don't need one of them in the match. She doesn't need one of them in the match for it. I get what you're saying, though. I get that's her girl. Let's let her win. No, she don't.
Because I don't like Nyla Rose.
But she doesn't have to do
that for that to happen.
But that doesn't happen.
If I was Britt Baker, I'd want anybody that I would never want to face to win that belt, to be honest, because I'd be like, well, then they don't have to face me.
I mean, yeah, but
who's going to attack Red Velvet?
It's Jade or Thunder at this point. I don't want her to attack Chris Statlander or Nyla.
Chris Statlander already had her. She already had her.
So has Nyla, and so
has. Let's not talk about people who already had their moment with Britt. Let's talk about people who haven't. Let's talk about people like who actually haven't lost to Britt. You know what I'm saying? Let's not focus on the losers.
That just leaves Jade because everyone else has lost her. Nyla's lost her, Chris has lost her, and Thunder Rosa.
Now
look at the bracket when it gets to Jade and Chris. What's her name? Jamie Hayter. That's where it can happen.
Yeah.
But talking about having stories and not having stories, the last two matches we're going to talk about definitely have stories. And I'm going to start with CM Punk and Eddie Kingston. Listen, I've complained for weeks and weeks and weeks. Listen, Punk came in. It was fucking cool. He wrestled Darby Allin. That was fucking dope. And then everything he's done since then has felt like it just had no substance. Punk had nothing to sink his teeth into. They started off with the Team Taz thing. I'm like, oh, this is something. He's going to go through Team Taz. He's going to go through Will Hobbs. He's going to go through Hook. He's going to go through Ricky Starks. No, he literally just wrestled Will Hobbs and didn't wrestle anybody else. I'm happy Punk's there, but I get where fans are coming from when they say they're sick of the pandering and the paying love to the fans and just being happy to be there and trying to play that Terry Funk and ECW role where he's just working with the young talent there and trying to elevate them. And the weeks they don't have anything for him to do, he's just going to come out there and cut a promo with something or sit on commentary. I needed something that Punk can get angry and sink his teeth into, and we haven't had it since maybe Darby. I'll say the Darby thing was fucking cool. But outside of that, a little bit with Team Taz, but then it ended. When Eddie Kingston confronted him on Rampage last week, I was like, oh, this is cool interaction. Hardcore fans know there was some actual real tension between them back in the days, going back to 2002. My biggest concern was knowing AEW, they were never going to fucking explain that and just expect fans to fucking know, and then we're going to go into full gear in a match. But then they booked that face-to-face segment that happened on this week on Rampage. And boy, did they let us know the backstory. Boy, did they let the Eddie Kingston and CM Punk go off on each other and talk their shit. And I fucking loved it, and I feel like I'm invested in this match just off of one fucking promo. And hence why I was saying if Liv Morgan and Becky just had one solid promo, they could sell me on their match. That's what Eddie Kingston and CM Punk did. I want this to go longer than Full Gear. I hope they continue this feud moving forward. I hope it doesn't just end at Full Gear and then Punk's back in the I'm working with young talent and sitting on commentary. I want this to be something that continues. I need a fired up CM Punk, and I feel like that's what we're finally getting. He's still kind of St. Louis, what do you want to see and shit? But I know Eddie Kingston's gonna call him out on that shit. I know he is because he's Eddie fucking Kingston. And how do you guys feel about this match?
Promo of the fucking week. Like, can we just talk about how I literally I hit you in the DMs and I was like, wait, is this real? Like what are we doing here? Because it really, and I give AEW, I give them a lot of shit. I do. And they've been impressing me with men's wrestling since Halloween, I think it was maybe. Yeah. And I will say this, all jokes aside, riveting, no commercial break, didn't want to move, needed substance, need more. Like it's something that, and I really don't, I'm not the biggest fan of either one of these people. And I'll go on a limb and say that. But I'm invested in them beating the hell out of each other because it felt real. And that's what it's about. It felt way personal.
And it was there was a time when, if you look back at 2002, 2003, like the independent scene was those guys that Eddie Kingston and Punk dropped. There was the Samoa Joes, him, Homicide, Amazing Red, Bryan Danielson. Eddie Kingston was just starting to hit the scene. And there's been a lot of stories in the past of CM Punk kind of judging people. And there's a CM Punk that us fans love that we all know and appreciate, but there is also that CM Punk we've heard about a lot being a narcissistic, two-faced piece of shit. And we've heard about both sides. And also there is that judgment that Eddie Kingston was never lived up to his potential until he got to AEW. Like those years and years and years of everybody knew Eddie Kingston was good. Everybody knew Eddie Kingston could talk. When he answered that open challenge to Cody Rhodes, we all got excited. It got him hired because we all knew that. But, it's just everything about it felt real. Everything about it felt personal. And I want to see these guys. I don't want to see them wrestle. I want to see them fight. I want to see CM Punk and Eddie Kingston fight. And, I don't know. I need more of this. I need more of these promos. I need Punk to fire back now because that was majority Eddie Kingston firing at Punk to the point of after I fight you, why don't you quit wrestling and leave for another 7 years? No, nobody even wanted to hear. Everyone else is scared to say it, but I'll tell you, nobody wanted to hear. And it felt real because, as much as Punk has been very, happy about being back and pandering to the fans, and I'm happy to be here and I'm working with the younger talent. And from a different perspective, it could look like, oh, this guy walked in here and he thinks he's holier than thou and like the top guy and he's better than the rest of us. We've been busting your ass since this company started. You know what I mean? There is that feeling that some of these people could have. And it tells a great story. I thought Moxley would do that eventually because Moxley and Jericho are two of the people that can be like, oh, we jumped off the WWE ship and tried to jump on this ship, even though we didn't know if it was going to sink or, swim. And we were here since day one. Now the rest of you guys all jumping aboard because you saw us swim. But now Eddie Kingston can do that with Punk. How do you feel, Santana?
For me, I think a lot of people know how I feel about Eddie Kingston. I can care less. But however, I will say the promo, it was really good. To see how they bring their old real life issues to their promos and seeing how angry CM Punk was and seeing how Eddie Kingston was taunting him as everybody came out and decided they wanted. First of all, them lit as security guards that they bringing out there to break them up, please. What do y'all be hiring these little security guards? What can they do? Nothing. They gotta pretend like they holding them back. No. But I will say that I am very interested to see how this match plays out between them. I think it's gonna be interesting, although it's kind of happening really fast. I mean, the only next time we get to kind of get to see them a little bit is either Wednesday or Friday before the pay-per-view. So unless they're doing something Wednesday and or Friday, then hopefully it could add a little bit more fuel to the fire of what they have going on with their last promo. And hopefully it does continue after Full Gear. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to stop at this pay-per-view. I don't know why they like to stop feuds at the pay-per-view and don't continue on. It's like there's so much that you can build up between these two and so many other people that it doesn't have to necessarily stop at just this pay-per-view and then cut it off and then boom, they go on about their separate ways.
Yeah, I definitely need this to continue. I like listen, I think CM Punk's gonna win if we're gonna make a prediction, but I'm okay if this match ends in like a no finish. If these guys just brawl over the and it just like it's a no contest. Like nobody won. So it can continue. Because I want Punk to show up on Dynamite. I want him to cross his legs and sit in the middle of the ring and tell a story about Eddie Kingston until Eddie Kingston gets pissed. I want Eddie Kingston to rebuttal on Friday. And then I want to go to this match, and then I don't want it to have a clean finish. And I wanted this to continue. And then maybe you can cap it off at this December special Dynamite, or we go take it to Revolution. But there's something real here. And we get to the best thing that both of these guys do. CM Punk was always known for, like take his pipe bomb promo, for instance. And the best thing that Eddie Kingston does all the time, you can look back at his feuds with Moxley and others, is that they're really good at blurring the lines of reality and fiction on that screen in their promos and when they actually care about what they're talking about. They're really good at taking what's happening in the real world and what happened in their real lives and bringing it there. So you're like, is this real or is this fake? Does he mean what he's saying or does he not? Like, I'm very confused. Both of them are really good at that. I mean, when CM Punk said, this place will be better when Vince McMahon dies, you're like, oh shit, and that's a thing that both these guys are really good at. So you got two of the best talkers of the modern, and I'm not even the biggest fan of Eddie Kingston as a talker because sometimes I feel like he's just rambling. But when he has something that has a proper direction like this, he is one of the best talkers. CM Punk is always a great talker, even when he's pandering and just sucking up to the fans. He's still a good talker. These guys they're gonna draw us into this event, and I don't think we need a definitive finish for this match personally, and I think it continues. If I had to make a prediction, Punk doesn't lose yet, but I just don't think there needs to be a finish to this match, and it needs to continue because I'm invested. You brought Punk in. It popped the ratings for a couple of weeks. People are tuning in. The biggest mistake AEW did is that you didn't put him into a story right away. You'll lose interest if you just keep coming to watch matches. You're a hardcore fan base that keeps returning, that 500 to 600,000 people that keep returning anyways, they're going to keep returning anyways. But the people that came to tune in because you brought in CM Punk and brought you up to like 1 or 2 million for those couple of weeks, they left because there's nothing for them to get invested in. There's no reason for them to come next week to see what CM Punk was going to do next and the story that he's involved in. There's no story. He finally has one. Let it just roll with it. Let the fans that probably came through now and went on YouTube and Twitter to shit to see this promo that everyone was talking about Eddie Kingston and CM Punk, let them come back and be like, well, I want to see what happens with Eddie Kingston and CM Punk next week. I want to see what happens with them next. And I think the best way to do that is just not have a proper finish. Lastly, the main event, guys. Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. Probably the best story that's been told in AEW's history since the beginning of AEW was the Hangman Adam Page story. The first person to get a world title shot against Chris Jericho when they didn't have a champion yet. The first person to like really lead the elite. The whole Lost Cowboy situation, teaming up with the Dark Order. Kenny Omega and him having the tag team title run where they were kind of, at odds at most of the time, but continued winning until they finally lost it. We all thought Hangman Adam Page was going to turn heel, ended up being Kenny Omega. And we've all felt sympathetic and behind Hangman Page. And probably one of the most popular stars to that audience is Hangman Page. This is his time. This is it. We thought it was going to happen last month, but Christian got the match. But this is it, right? Like, this is Hangman Adam Page's crowning moment.
It is it's right now. Kenny is gonna lose that title. I'm sorry. It's done. It's over with. It's too much. It's too much hype and excitement and anticipation behind Hangman right now to the point where what would be interesting is if all of this hypeness and everybody already saying that, oh well, Hangman is gonna win and then Kenny wins. Do you think it is going to be dead silence or what? What do you think?
I don't know. It just seemed, I will say this, it does seem like people are not tired of Kenny Omega, but the hype that I felt like he had a few months ago, it has kind of died down with the presence of Hangman. And I do think that if you don't take the moment now to take the title off of Kenny at the most vital time, I feel like, especially for men's wrestling. God forbid. But I mean, I think the audience would leave if Hangman doesn't win.
You're gonna kill your audience. You can't drag this on any longer.
Yeah, you're gonna kill
it. 2 years in the fucking build. 2 years in the build. In the making. 2 years in the making.
Yeah.
This is like we had to wait a little bit longer because Hangman took time off because he was having a baby. Now he's back. We need this moment, and I think they've dominated for a solid like almost a year and a half now. But this needs to start becoming the disillusion of the elite. Like there's gonna be inner feuds now. I do see Omega versus Adam Cole. I do see the Young Bucks being conflicted. I do see them falling apart because their glue always was, well, we got the world champion Kenny Omega with us. We got the belt. We're the best. Well, once that belt's gone, all hell can break loose, and Hangman can go do what the fuck else he wants to do with that title and be that fighting champion that we wanted him to be. And don't be wrong, I'm not the biggest fan of a long-running babyface champion. I don't like when good guys hold the belt for too long. I feel like they need to go through controversies and obstacles to have us remain behind them. So I think Hangman will hold that belt for Revolution or a couple of pay-per-views. But that being said, I think it's time that we move on with the story. I think it's time that we put a cap on it, and Kenny Omega's reign, to be honest with you, not that fucking great. Did he have some really great matches? For sure. He had some solid matches in this reign. He's a good wrestler. He's always been a great wrestler. No one take that away from him. But as a character, as a personality, as a champion, didn't really do much for me. If anything, I feel like the hype that Kenny Omega had coming into this company, he's not lived up to it. Wrestling-wise, for sure. Character-wise and being like the top star in the business, not really in my humble opinion. But someone that exceeded all expectations is Hangman Page. And I think it's his time. I just think it is.
It is. I agree. So hopefully we get a new champion, and I'm ready for Adam Cole to break away from the elite.
That is it. We're done. Sorry, this is a way longer episode than I expected, but we did have to go through the releases. They've announced Survivor Series teams. We had Full Gear this Saturday. There was a lot to talk about. Some weeks there's not a lot to talk about, and some weeks like this week, well, there's a lot to talk about. Hopefully we covered everything we could. And yeah, hope everyone is. I'm almost debating if I should do the predictions as a separate thing, but regardless of the fact, guys. And thank you for joining us. Nicki, where can they follow you?
You guys can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Nicki Bougie. Pretty easy to find. You can also catch me writing some articles under my chief there, Women's Wrestling Talk pod.com. Make sure you guys also check us out tomorrow. Like I said, we're doing a top 5 panel for Bianca Belair. 5:30 p.m. That is Pacific time, I believe. Nope, it's Central time, right?
It's Central.
Time. So make sure you check us there. And yeah.
Santana.
As for me, you can find me on Instagram at Santana Muse. You can find me on Twitter at Dhillon. You can find me on Women's Wrestling Talk. There you can find me at The Culture Commentator. That's my thing. I'm everywhere. I'm taking over everywhere, literally. Like I may be hosting a wrestling classic one day. You never know. Just a steps down. Me and Nicki may be running the show.
Last but not least, you guys know where to find all my stuff. The links are in my bio. But I do want to say, if you are listening to this right now, you might be like, "Wait, what happened to the AEW Full Gear predictions?" I might cut it out and make it its own separate episode. So if you're listening to this and you heard them, dope. If you're listening to this and you didn't hear them, they're probably coming out like on Wednesday morning, and you guys can listen to the predictions for just Full Gear as its own separate bonus episode, because we talked a lot today. That all being said, guys, and if you're on the Patreon, you're just gonna get the whole fucking episode because I'm not cutting up the video. But that being said, so after the Patreon, as low as $2, guys, you get a lot of exclusive content and whatnot. Thank you guys for joining us today, and yeah, keep doing the thing. We'll see you all next time. Ooh, yeah, dig it.